So, given the case that I've been mounting so far, it's a good case to suggest that the current copyright laws are somewhat outdated and require attention to enable creativity while not inhibiting the economic models of the creative industries. The DMC isn't replacing one of the members of the Beastie Boys. It actually means the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA. In 1998, the US, sorry, it's a pretty lame hip hop joke. In 1998, the US passed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and it meant to update copyright law for electronic commerce and electronic content providers. Unfortunately, this law was very poorly written and is now regularly used by corporations to restrain the few concessions within copyright which allow exchange of reuse and cultural products. In the DMCA realm, the copyright of fair use, or in the Australian sense, fair dealing, has been extremely restricted. Even quoting passages in order to comment on them has been raised as potentially copyright infringement on the net. Associated Press has been trying to prosecute bloggers who quote from its stuff if they have ads on their site, as an example. And if your site is taken down by your ISP before you can make a case for why you think it's fair dealing, then the system is seriously flawed. The DMCA has been used, for example, to suppress freedom of speech. In August 2008, a mysterious entity called American Rights Council demanded that 4,000 videos criticising Scientology be pulled from YouTube, and you can imagine what happened then. The group sent more than 4,000 DMCA takedown notices to YouTube and claimed that every video infringed on its copyrights according to the EFF, and every time one was played, a fairy died. It appeared that most... I didn't actually say that. It appeared that most of the pulled content has been reinstated already after the various uploaders filed DMCA counter notices asserting that the videos in question did not infringe copyright. So what does this mean for you as a young Australian media scholar? So within the signing of the Australian-US Free Trade Agreement, the AUSFTA, we have agreed to extend copyright from 50 years after an author's death to 70, and strengthening actions against people trying to get around the regional coding on CDs and DVDs. Possibly not such an issue anymore, but was an issue. Signing the US Free Trade Act meant that we had to change our legislation to be in line with theirs. This is called copyright harmonisation. So this means that some of our copyright policies comes out of Washington, essentially. Why was the US so keen to get our copyright regime in tune with theirs? Why are they so obsessed with IP? Well, because they are the world's biggest exporter of music, movies, computer games, software, drugs, and thousands of other patented items. And because their trade names, Levi Strauss, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, etc., are highly valuable. In the words of Ross Gittins in the Sydney Morning Herald, as a small country trading with the technology giants of the US, Europe, and Japan, we will always import far more IP than we export. So, like developing countries, we are losers from American efforts to increase IP protection around the world. But at least in one sense, local action can successfully head off some of the broader moves by the film and television industry to force forms of copyright protection. Last year, AFACT, the Australian Copyright Theft, a coalition of 34 film and television and music companies, including Seven Network, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, Walt Disney Studios and Village Roadshow, lost its High Court bid to make Perth company iiNet, our second biggest ISP, responsible for customer illegal downloads. We were talking about this case in more detail last week. In a unanimous decision to the landmark case, the High Court found that Australia's second largest internet service provider, iiNet, had not authorised copyright infringements. The court also ruled that iiNet had no technical means to prevent its customers from using BitTorrent systems to infringe copyright through file sharing. Hurrah! Lessig and many others in the remix movement argue that rather than abandoning copyright completely, then we need to consider how copyright can be reformed for a network society. The basic argument is that copyright is no longer equipped to deal with the digital realm, and we need to completely rethink that. Clearly, artists need copyright royalties from use of their works to survive, so the question is, where's the balance? Below, I'm going to put a connection to 9 Inch Nails' Ghosts, and in the next video we'll talk about that. So check out the website, come back,